Imagine a place where the entire knowledge of the ancient world, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, engineering, was gathered in one sanctuary of scrolls and silence. Imagine texts that predated Pythagoras, maps that hinted at continents yet unknown, surgical techniques far ahead of their time. That place existed. Alexandria, a city founded by conquest, but remembered for its wisdom. And yet, it is not what remains of Alexandria that captures the human imagination. It is what was lost. Some say its destruction was an accident. Others whisper of conspiracy. But one question has echoed through 2,000 years of history. What secrets were so dangerous they could not be allowed to survive? This is not just the story of a library. This is the story of human memory. What we choose to remember and what we choose to erase. In the 3rd century before the Common Era, during the reign of the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, a remarkable vision was set into motion. Ptolemy the Barsoter, one of Alexander the Great's most trusted generals and the founder of the Ptolemaic kingdom, sought to do more than merely govern his territory. He aimed to create an eternal beacon of enlightenment, a place where all the world's knowledge would be collected, studied, and preserved. What emerged from this vision was the Library of Alexandria, an unparalleled institution that would stand as the most ambitious intellectual endeavor of the ancient world. The library was situated within the royal quarter of Alexandria, adjacent to the Museion, a temple dedicated to the Muses, the goddesses of inspiration in literature, science, and the arts. Together, the Museion and the library formed a kind of ancient research institute, attracting scholars, philosophers, poets, and scientists from across the known world. The goal was nothing less than the complete collection of all written works. To that end, Ptolemy and his successors sent agents throughout the Mediterranean and beyond, instructing them to obtain every book, scroll, and manuscript they could find. These were copied, studied, translated, and stored within the grand halls of Alexandria. Ships that docked in the bustling port of Alexandria were routinely searched. If they carried any texts, those writings were taken to the library, meticulously copied by scribes, and the original was often retained while the copy was returned. It is believed that, at its height, the library held between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls, although some ancient sources suggest the number could have been even greater. The scope of the material collected was vast. Works in Greek, Egyptian, Babylonian, Sanskrit, Hebrew, and possibly early Chinese, writings on mathematics, astronomy, medicine, geography, philosophy, agriculture, mechanics, and religion. What made the Library of Alexandria unique was not merely its size, but its spirit. It represented an ideal that transcended politics and borders, the idea that human knowledge, regardless of its origin, held intrinsic value. It was a place where cultures met not to conquer, but to converse. In those halls, a Babylonian star chart might sit beside an Egyptian surgical treatise, a Sanskrit philosophical poem next to a Greek treatise on logic. Knowledge was not hoarded for power. It was preserved for posterity. Yet, such a treasure trove of wisdom was not without danger. Knowledge can empower, but it can also threaten. The very existence of the Library of Alexandria, its ambition to collect every idea, every perspective, every truth, posed a challenge to those who thrived on control and orthodoxy. Within its scrolls may have been ideas too radical, too advanced, or too subversive to be tolerated. Some historians speculate that among the library's contents were technologies far ahead of their time. There are references, scattered through later texts, of machines powered by steam, surgical instruments capable of delicate operations, and even early batteries resembling the so-called Baghdad battery. These accounts are debated, but the possibility remains that Alexandria preserved knowledge that, if understood and applied, might have transformed history. One striking example of such lost ingenuity is the Antikythera mechanism, a Greek analog computer recovered from a shipwreck dated to the 1st century before the Common Era. Its complex system of gears was capable of predicting celestial positions and eclipses with astonishing accuracy. Scholars believe that the mechanism's design likely drew upon knowledge stored in places like Alexandria. Had such technologies been widely disseminated, the scientific revolution might have occurred a millennium earlier. The library also preserved philosophical ideas that challenged prevailing doctrines. In Alexandria, pre-Socratic philosophy may have mingled with Eastern metaphysics, creating a space for thinkers to question the nature of reality, the soul, and the divine. What if there were scrolls that denied the immortality of the soul, or that proposed a purely material universe governed by laws rather than gods? In the hands of the curious, these texts would inspire inquiry. In the hands of the powerful, they would incite fear. Religion, monarchy, and tradition all depend on narrative. And when knowledge undermines that narrative, it becomes dangerous. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria did not occur in a single night. It was not a dramatic blaze that consumed it all, as romanticized by poets and dramatists. Instead, it was a long, drawn-out erosion of knowledge, carried out over centuries. The first blow may have come in 48 BCE, during Julius Caesar's military campaign in Egypt. To gain control over the harbor, Caesar ordered the burning of Egyptian ships. The flames spread to nearby storage buildings, and it is widely believed that many scrolls intended for the library were lost in the resulting fire. Caesar himself later expressed regret for the unintended destruction, but the library endured. A more insidious loss came during the rise of Christianity in the Roman Empire. As Christian ideology became state orthodoxy, anything associated with pagan thought was viewed with suspicion or outright hostility. The Serapeum, a secondary library associated with the main library and housed within a temple to the god Serapis, was destroyed in 391 CE under the orders of Patriarch Theophilus. With it likely perished thousands of scrolls. The destruction was not just physical, it was ideological. Knowledge that did not conform to Christian doctrine was not merely ignored, it was erased. Still later, in the 7th century of the Common Era, during the Islamic conquest of Egypt, the last remnants of the library may have been destroyed. According to some accounts, Caliph Omar ordered the burning of any surviving scrolls, allegedly stating that if the writings agreed with the Quran, they were unnecessary, and if they disagreed, they were heretical. Though modern historians question the veracity of this account, its symbolism is powerful. Knowledge, no matter how vast or ancient, is always vulnerable to ideology. And so the library fell, not with a single act of destruction, but with many. Fires, religious purges, political shifts, and neglect all played a role. What was lost cannot be fully known. We can only infer from the echoes, the lost works of Aristotle, including his treatise on comedy, the missing tragedies and satires of Sophocles and Euripides, the vanished astronomical tables, the forgotten medical practices, the suppressed philosophical treatises. We did not merely lose books, we lost perspectives, possibilities, and paths not taken. More profoundly, we lost the continuity of civilization. Alexandria was a bridge between worlds, a place where East met West, where science met spirituality, where logic met myth. Its destruction was not just the loss of a building or a collection. It was the rupture of an intellectual bloodstream that connected the ancient world. Without it, the Renaissance came later. The Enlightenment dimmed. The gaps in our historical record widened. The tragedy of the Library of Alexandria is not just that it was destroyed, but that it was never rebuilt. The idea of gathering all human knowledge in one place remains an elusive dream. Today, we live in an age of information abundance, but also of misinformation, digital decay, and cultural amnesia. The lessons of Alexandria have never been more relevant. Knowledge must be protected, not only from fire, but from indifference, censorship, and forgetfulness. Perhaps not everything was lost. Perhaps somewhere, buried beneath centuries of sand and ash, fragments remain. A passage quoted in a later manuscript, a device discovered in a shipwreck, a memory preserved in another culture's story. And perhaps the greatest legacy of the library is not what it held, but what it represented. The courage to preserve the truth, the humility to seek wisdom across borders, and the responsibility to pass knowledge on. So we return once more to the question, what secrets were too dangerous to survive? The answer may lie not in the ashes of Alexandria, but in our willingness to ensure that no such loss ever happens again.